The town was quiet. Shops had closed, streets were empty, and the night sky was covered with heavy clouds. Only one small store still had its lights on, glowing softly like a lantern in the dark. It was an old human store, filled with everyday things, food, tools, books, and strange little objects that no one cared much about. Inside, the shopkeeper sat behind the counter, half asleep, waiting for the last customer who might or might not come. The doorbell rang. He opened his eyes slowly. A figure stepped inside, moving carefully as if afraid of making noise. It was a girl, young, with strange silver eyes and pale skin that glowed under the weak light. She wore a cloak to hide her face, but her movements betrayed her. She was not human. She was an alien. The shopkeeper had seen many people in his life, but very few like her. Most aliens avoided small human towns, choosing the busy cities instead, so it was rare, strange even, to see an alien girl walking into his quiet little store. She looked around with curiosity, touching the shelves, picking things up and setting them down again. Her hands trembled, slightly, not from fear but from excitement. It was as if she had never been in such a place before. The shopkeeper spoke at last, his voice calm but sharp. "Can I help you?" The girl turned to him, her eyes wide, and she smiled nervously. "I want to buy something," she whispered, her voice soft, almost musical. She picked up a small notebook and a simple pen, things no one else would notice. She carried them to the counter as if they were treasures. The shopkeeper nodded and pulled the items closer. He pressed a button on the old scanner. The machine beeped as usual, but when her hand brushed against it, the sound changed. It was not a normal beep. It was long, sharp, and strange, echoing, like a warning. The girl froze. Her eyes widened and she pulled her hand back quickly. The pen and notebook glowed faintly for just a moment, then turned dark again. The shopkeeper stared at the machine. His face changed, though he tried to hide. That sound. He had heard it before, long ago. It was the sound that meant danger, the sound that meant something impossible had been awakened, but he forced a smile. "That will be 5 credits, he said quietly. The girl handed him the money with shaking hands. Avoiding his eyes, she took the bag and turned to leave. But her steps were unsteady, as if she knew something was wrong. Outside, the wind blew hard, making her cloak whip around her body. She walked away quickly, disappearing into the night. Inside, the shopkeeper stayed very still, staring at the scanner. His heart beat faster than it had in years. He reached out and touched the machine. It was still warm. He whispered to himself, his voice heavy with memory. Not again. He stood up, locked the door, and pulled the curtains over the windows. Then he went to the back of the store. There, hidden under a wooden floorboard, lay an old box covered in dust. He opened it slowly. Inside were old papers, photographs, and a strange device shaped like a small star. He touched it carefully, and for a moment he thought he felt it move. His hands shook. He closed the box quickly and whispered again, "It begins." Meanwhile, the alien girl walked down a narrow street, her hands holding the bag tightly. Her mind was full of questions. Why had the machine reacted to her? Why did the notebook glow? She felt her chest burning, not with pain, but with something deeper. A strange energy seemed to follow her, crawling under her skin. She looked at the pen and notebook through the bag, and for a moment she thought she saw light shining again. She pulled her cloak tighter around her and hurried home. But she did not know that shadows were following her. Dark shapes moved quietly across rooftops, watching her every step. Way in the sky above the clouds, a ship waited. Its windows glowed red, and inside figures studied a screen. The screen showed the girl leaving the store, holding her small bag. One of the figures leaned closer and hissed, "It has awakened, just as the record said." Another replied, "Then the human knows. We must move quickly before he warns others." Down below, in the quiet town, no one knew what was coming. The alien girl thought she had only made a simple purchase. The human shopkeeper thought he had only sold a notebook and a pen, but the truth was far greater. The purchase was not innocent. It was the beginning of something that would change both human and alien worlds forever. And as the night grew darker, the sound of the scanner still echoed in the shopkeeper's ears. That sound of warning, that sound of destiny. The story of humans was not over. It was only beginning. The alien girl returned to her small room at the edge of the town. It was quiet, only the sound of wind outside. She placed the notebook and pen on the table, trying to calm herself. Her heart was still racing from what happened in the store. She whispered to herself, "It was just a scanner, nothing more." But she could not forget the strange glow, the strange sound, the look in the shopkeeper's eyes. She sat down and opened the notebook. At first it looked ordinary, empty pages, clean and white. But when she touched the first page with the pen, something happened. The ink moved by itself, spreading across the paper. Words appeared, glowing faintly, written in a language she did not know. She gasped and dropped the pen, her hands shaking. The light faded, but the words stayed on the page. She could not understand them, yet she felt them. They carried meaning inside her mind, like whispers pressing against her thoughts. The girl stood up quickly and closed the notebook. Her chest was heavy, her skin warm. It felt as if the object was alive, as if it wanted her to see something. She pushed it away and tried to distract herself. But every time she looked at the bag, the notebook seemed to pull her back, as if saying, "Open me again." Meanwhile, in the store, the shopkeeper sat in his chair but could not rest. His hands tapped nervously on the counter. The sound of the scanner still echoed in his head. That sound was a warning, a memory of the past. He stood up, moved to the back of the store again, and opened the old box under the floor. The strange star-shaped device inside glowed faintly. He lifted it and whispered, "Why now? Why her?" Long ago he had been told stories of humans who once fought against alien masters, humans who used strange artifacts to rise. But those days were gone, erased, forgotten. Now most humans believed they were weak, ordinary, nothing special. And maybe that was safer, but the shopkeeper knew the truth was not so simple. Somewhere deep in history, something powerful was hidden, something dangerous. And the scanner's reaction tonight meant that history was coming. Aki sat down with the star-shaped device in his hand. His thoughts were heavy. He remembered his father's words. If the scanner ever cries, it means the time has come. But he had hoped that day would never arrive. He knew the girl was not just any alien. The scanner would not have reacted to her if she were. There had to be a reason, he whispered. She is the key. Outside, the town slept, but shadows were moving. A cloaked figure stood near the store, watching. He spoke into a small device. The signal was confirmed. The object is active. A cold voice answered, "Keep watching. Do not move until ordered." The figure nodded and disappeared into the darkness. Back in her room, the alien girl tried to sleep. But her dreams were filled with strange visions. She saw battles in the sky, humans holding glowing weapons, ships burning. She saw alien armies breaking, retreating, and at the center of it all, humans standing proud, unbroken. The vision faded, and she woke up breathless. She looked at the notebook again. Her hand moved before she could stop it, opening the cover. This time the words were clearer, and in her mind, she heard a voice whisper, "You are the bridge." Her chest pounded. Bridge? Between what? Between who? She closed the book quickly, her hands shaking, but she could not deny what she felt. Somehow this notebook was connected to her, connected to humans, connected to something far greater. The next day she returned to the store. The shopkeeper looked at her as if he expected her to come back. He did not smile. He did not ask what she wanted. Instead, he leaned closer and said softly, "You saw something, didn't you?" The girl froze. She wanted to deny it, but the words caught in her throat. Finally, she whispered, "Yes." The shopkeeper sighed, his eyes heavy. "Then you must listen carefully, and you must not tell anyone." He led her to the back of the store, down into the hidden room beneath the floor. The air smelled of dust and old secrets. There were shelves of papers, old maps, broken machines. She stared in silence, her silver eyes wide. "What is this place?" she asked. The shopkeeper touched the star-shaped device. "This is history. History that was buried. History they do not want you to know." The girl stepped closer, her heart beating fast. "Why me?" she whispered. The shopkeeper looked at her with tired eyes. "Because the scanner chose you. Because the notebook responded to you. It means you are part of something far older than you can imagine. And if others learn what you carry, they will hunt you. They will kill you to keep this secret hidden." The girl shivered, fear mixing with wonder. She looked at the shelves of forgotten human history and felt the weight of destiny pressing on her. The shopkeeper placed the star-shaped device in her hands. It glowed faintly just like the notebook, and in that glow she felt the same whisper again. "You are the bridge, far away." On the ship above the clouds, the red-eyed figures smiled. There, screens showed the girl standing in the secret room, holding the glowing device. One of them hissed, "Yes, it has begun." Another replied, "Then the hunt starts now." The alien girl sat in the hidden room of the store. Her hands trembled as she held the star-shaped device. It glowed faintly, soft light pulsing like a heartbeat. The shopkeeper watched her closely, his old eyes sharp. He had seen many things in his long life, but never this. Never someone who could awaken two artifacts at once. The girl whispered, "It speaks to me." Her voice was low, almost afraid. The shopkeeper leaned closer. "What does it say?" She shook her head. "Not in words, not in language. It whispers inside my mind, calling me the bridge, but I don't know what it means." The shopkeeper sighed heavily. His hand brushed across the dusty shelves, pulling out an old paper map. He spread it on the table. It showed old Earth with strange marks across mountains, rivers, and deserts. These places once held artifacts, powerful tools humans made long ago, he said. Most are lost, most destroyed, but some remain hidden, waiting. If the notebook and device woke for you, then others may too. The girl looked at the map, her silver eyes reflecting the marks. Her chest felt heavy. She was only a traveler, a stranger in this human town. She never asked for this, and yet the notebook and device had chosen her. She asked softly, "Why me? I am not human." The shopkeeper's voice turned sharp. "Maybe not fully, but the artifacts don't make mistakes. If they answered to you, it means your blood is connected somehow. Maybe long ago your family line crossed with humans. Or maybe the artifacts see more than blood. Maybe they see the soul." The girl looked down at the glowing device. Her hands tightened. She remembered her dreams, the visions of humans fighting, of alien armies breaking. The humans in those visions looked fearless, unstoppable. But the humans she had met in this town looked ordinary, weak, tired. Could they really be the same? She whispered. "I don't understand." The shopkeeper replied, "You don't need to understand yet, you only need to listen. If the artifacts are awakening, then danger will follow. Others will come, and they will not stop until you are caught." As if his words were a signal, a faint sound echoed outside the store. Both turned quickly, listening. Steps moved across the street, slow but heavy. Shadows passed the window. The shopkeeper cursed under his breath. "They found us." He pushed the girl toward the stairs. "Hide the notebook, hide the device. Don't let them take it." But before she could move, her hands glowed brighter. The device in her palms pulsed violently, filling the room with white light. The shelves rattled. The air grew hot, and suddenly the girl was not in the room anymore. She stood in a vision, a world broken by war. She saw humans in armor, glowing with the same light as the device. They fought against alien soldiers who looked powerful but afraid. Ships burned in the sky, mountains split, and a voice filled her head, louder than before. Humanity was never weak, they only forgot. The girl fell to her knees, clutching her chest. The vision faded and she found herself back in the hidden room. Her breath was heavy, her skin cold with sweat. The shopkeeper grabbed her shoulders. "What did you see?" She looked at him with fear and wonder. "I saw humans fighting, winning against empires." Her voice shook. They were not weak at all. The shopkeeper closed his eyes. "Yes, that is the truth they buried. That is the truth, no alien. Empire wants to return because if humans remember who they are, no chain can hold them." Before she could answer, the front door of the store broke open. The sound of wood shattering filled the night. Heavy boots marched in, armored figures. Stepping inside, their helmets glowed red, their weapons sharp. The shopkeeper's eyes narrowed. "They're here for you." The girl's chest pounded. Her instinct screamed to run, but her hands refused to drop the glowing device. The soldiers moved closer, their leader's voice cold. "Alien girl, hand over the artifact. It does not belong to you." Her lips trembled. She wanted to obey, to end the fear. But the device pulsed again, stronger this time. The white light spread, covering her body like a shield. The soldiers fired, but their shots bounced back, tearing holes into the walls. The girl screamed, not in pain but in shock. The power was not hers, yet it was flowing through her. The soldiers staggered back. Their leader hissed, "So it is true. The bridge has awakened." He raised his weapon again, but before he could fire, the shopkeeper pulled the girl behind him, holding a strange old gun from the hidden shelf. "This is my store," he said calmly, "and you are not welcome here." The standoff filled the air with silence, broken only by the hum of the artifact in the girl's hands. The leader glared, his voice sharp. "This is only the beginning, human. You cannot protect her forever. We will return with greater numbers." With that, the armored figures stepped back, retreating into the night. The shopkeeper locked the door again, his hands shaking but his eyes steady. The girl collapsed into a chair, her body still glowing. Faintly, she whispered, "They called me the bridge. What am I?" The shopkeeper looked at her with grim resolve. "You are the key to everything, and now the whole galaxy knows it." Far above the clouds, the red-eyed ship received the soldier's report. A new voice filled the chamber, cold and commanding. "Then we will hunt her, and we will burn the humans before they rise again." The night was heavy with silence. The small town slept, unaware of the danger moving through its streets. But inside the store, the alien girl sat trembling, the glowing device still pulsing in her hands. The shopkeeper stood near the door, his old gun resting in his grip, his eyes watching the shadows outside. He had lived through many storms, but he knew this one would not pass quietly. The girl whispered, "They will come back." Her silver eyes were wide with fear, her voice shaking. The shopkeeper nodded, his face grim. "Yes, and they will not stop. Once the artifact awakens, it draws attention. Those soldiers tonight were only scouts. The real hunters will arrive soon." The girl looked down at the notebook and the star-shaped device. She felt them both vibrating, alive, whispering softly. Inside her head, she clutched them tighter, whispering back, "Why me? Why not someone else?" But no answer came, only the steady hum of power. Suddenly the ground trembled. The shopkeeper's eyes snapped toward the window. Lights flared outside, harsh, white, and blinding. Engines roared above, shaking the air. Ships were descending, larger than the town had ever seen. The girl's breath caught in her throat. "They've come." The shopkeeper grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the back. "We cannot fight them here. The town will burn." But before they could move, the front of the store exploded inward. Wood splintered, glass shattered, and armored soldiers stormed inside. Their weapons hummed with deadly light, their helmets glowing red. The leader pointed at the girl, his voice sharp and commanding. "Give us the artifact, alien child, or this place will fall." The girl froze, her body shaking, but the shopkeeper stepped in front of her, his old gun aimed steadily. "You'll take nothing from here," he growled. The soldiers laughed, their metallic voices cold. "Old man, you cannot stand against us." The leader raised his weapon, ready to fire, but the girl screamed, clutching the device. The white light burst out again, filling the room like fire. The soldiers staggered back as beams of energy bounced from her shield. The shop's shelves collapsed, items flying across the air. The girl cried out, "I can't control it." Her voice was filled with terror, but the power only grew stronger. The shopkeeper pulled her behind the counter. "You must hold it. Even fear can guide the artifact. It answers to the heart, not the hand." The girl squeezed her eyes shut. Gripping the device with all her strength, her fear turned into something sharper. Desperation, then resolve. The light around her steadied, forming a wall between them and the soldiers. The leader hissed in anger, "Then we will crush the human first." He aimed his weapon at the shopkeeper, but the girl's shield expanded suddenly, slamming into the soldiers and throwing them across the room. They crashed into the shelves, sparks flying from their armor. The leader staggered up, his helmet cracked, his eyes glowing red. "You are the bridge," he spat. "But bridges can be broken." He raised his weapon again, but the shopkeeper fired first. The old gun released a beam of blue fire, striking the leader's chest. The alien roared in pain, stumbling backward, his armor smoking. The other soldiers rushed forward, their weapons blazing. The store filled with light and fire. Walls cracked, ceiling burned, the air filled with smoke. But the girl stood strong, her shield protecting both herself and the shopkeeper. The fight raged until the leader raised his hand, signaling retreat. The soldiers pulled back, dragging their injured commander with them. Before leaving, the leader turned one last time. His voice was dark, filled with promise. "This is not over, child. You cannot hide, you cannot run. We will return with fire enough to burn this world." And with that, they vanished into the night. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the crackle of burning wood. The store was ruined, smoke rising from its broken walls. The shopkeeper coughed, lowering his gun. The girl collapsed to the ground, the light fading slowly from her body. Her hands shook as she whispered, "I don't understand what's happening to me." The shopkeeper knelt beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You are the bridge, and that means more than you realize. The artifacts chose you for a reason, and now the enemy knows it too." The girl looked at him, her silver eyes shining with tears. "But I'm not human. Why would they choose me?" The shopkeeper's gaze was heavy, filled with secrets he had carried for years. "Maybe you are more human than you believe. Or maybe humanity's story is not only in blood, but in spirit." Before the girl could answer, a deep rumble shook the ground again. They both turned to the sky. Far above, more ships appeared, their lights piercing through the clouds. The invasion had only just begun. The girl clutched the artifact close, her chest burning with fear and something else, something like destiny. She whispered, "If I am the bridge, then what waits on the other side?" The shopkeeper did not answer. He only stared at the sky, his jaw tight, his gun ready again. For he knew this was no longer a fight for a store, or even for a town. It was the beginning of a war. The store was in ruins. Smoke drifted through, broken walls. Shelves lay in pieces, and the night air carried the smell of fire. The alien girl sat on the floor, still holding the glowing device close to her chest. Her silver eyes reflected the flickering flames. Filled with fear and questions, the shopkeeper stood beside her, his old gun heavy in his hands, his face set with determination. He knew the enemy would return, and next time, the town would not survive. "We cannot stay here," he said firmly. The girl looked up, her voice trembling. "Where will we go?" He glanced toward the distant hills, his eyes narrowing. "There is a place hidden for many years. It holds answers and maybe hope. But the path is dangerous." The girl hugged the device tighter. "Hope," she whispered. The shopkeeper nodded. Long ago, humans left behind secrets. Secrets they buried so deep that even empires could not erase them. If we find them, maybe we can stand against what is coming. By dawn, they were already leaving the ruined town behind. The girl followed the shopkeeper through silent fields and empty roads. The townspeople hid in their homes, watching with fear as strange ships patrolled the skies. Whispers spread among them, rumors of glowing lights, alien soldiers, and a human shopkeeper who had defied them, but none dared to step outside. For hours they walked until the town was far behind. The land changed. Green fields gave way to rocky hills and deep forests. The girl's cloak caught on branches. Her feet, stumbling on uneven ground, but the shopkeeper moved with steady steps as if he had walked this path many times before. Finally, he stopped before a ridge of stone covered in moss and vines. "This is the place," he said. The girl frowned. It looked like nothing more than a wall of rock, but the shopkeeper placed his hand on the stone, whispering words in a language she did not know. The stone trembled, shifting. A hidden door opened, revealing a dark passage leading into the earth. The air that flowed out was cold, filled with the scent of age and dust. They stepped inside, the door closing silently behind them. The passage was narrow, the walls carved with strange symbols that glowed faintly as they walked. The girl brushed her hand across one, feeling warmth. "These marks?" "Hi," she whispered. "They look alive." The shopkeeper nodded. "They are. They were made by humans long ago, when they still remembered their strength." The tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber. The girl gasped. Her silver eyes, widening, it was filled with relics. Ancient machines, broken weapons, glowing crystals, and shelves stacked with old books and maps. Some objects floated in the air, humming softly as if still awake. Others lay silent, waiting for a hand to touch them again. "This," the shopkeeper said quietly, "is what humanity once was." The girl stepped closer to one of the machines. Her fingers hovered above it, and it began to glow faintly. She pulled her hand back in shock. "It reacts to me," she whispered. The shopkeeper's gaze grew heavy. "Of course it does. The artifacts see something in you that they cannot see in others. That is why the enemy fears you. That is why they call you the bridge." The girl turned to him. "But I am not human. Why would they choose me?" The shopkeeper shook his head. "Blood is not everything. Perhaps you carry human spirit, or perhaps you were meant to stand between two worlds. Whatever the reason, the artifacts do not lie. They have chosen, and now we must follow their path." Indy picked up an old book, its cover cracked and faded. When she opened it, the pages glowed with the same light as the notebook she had bought. Images appeared, drawings of battles, humans wielding glowing weapons, alien armies retreating in fear. Her heart pounded as she whispered, "It's true. Humans were powerful." The shopkeeper nodded, his voice low. "Powerful and dangerous, so dangerous that the alien empires worked together to bury the truth. They rewrote history, turned humans into servants, and the humans forgot who they once were." The girl closed the book, her hands shaking. "But why bring it back now? Why awaken it in me?" Before the shopkeeper could answer, the ground trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling and a low hum filled the chamber. The girl's chest burned as the artifact in her hands pulsed violently. She stumbled back, crying out. The machines around them flickered to life, glowing brighter, humming louder. The shopkeeper's eyes widened. "You've awakened the vault." The chamber's walls shifted, revealing hidden passages and locked doors breaking open. Inside were more artifacts, glowing brighter than the rest. One floated toward the girl, a blade made of pure light. She reached out in fear, but it placed itself gently into her hands. Her body shook as visions filled her mind again. Visions of humans standing against empires wielding the same weapon she now held. The voice returned, stronger than ever. "You are the bridge. Through you, humanity will remember." The girl gasped, the weapon's light surrounding her. She turned to the shopkeeper, her voice trembling. "I can't carry this, I'm not strong enough." The shopkeeper placed his hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to be strong alone. The artifacts will guide you in humanity. We'll follow." But before she could reply, a deafening roar shook the chamber. The ground split as explosions echoed from above. The enemy had found them. Red light poured through cracks in the ceiling, voices shouting in alien tongues. The shopkeeper raised his gun, his face set with steel. "They're here," he said. The girl gripped the glowing blade, her hands shaking, her heart racing. The whispers in her mind grew louder. "Stand, bridge, stand." And as the ceiling above them collapsed, the forgotten past awakened fully. The first battle of a new war had begun. The underground chamber shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling, and the glowing artifacts hummed louder. The alien girl clutched the blade of light. its energy flowing into her trembling arms. The shopkeeper stood beside her, his gun raised, his old eyes sharp and steady. Above them, alien ships circled, preparing to strike. The enemy had found the vault, and they would not leave until everything inside was destroyed. A section of the ceiling split open. Red-armored soldiers dropped down, their boots smashing against the stone floor. Their weapons glowed, aimed at the girl. The leader's voice boomed through the chamber. "Bridge, surrender. The artifacts or your human friend dies." The girl's chest burned with fear. Her hands shook as the blade vibrated, whispering inside her mind, "Stand, Bridge, stand." The shopkeeper glanced at her, his voice low but firm. "They fear you because you carry what they cannot. Do not. Give them that power, do not surrender." The soldiers moved closer, their weapons raised. The girl squeezed her eyes shut, her heart pounding like thunder. When she opened them, the blade pulsed, releasing a wave of white light. The soldiers staggered, their armor sparking as the energy pushed them back. The girl gasped, almost dropping the blade. "I didn't mean to." The shopkeeper cut her off. "You don't need to mean it, the artifact knows it answers to your spirit." The leader roared in anger. "Kill them both." The chamber filled with fire and light as the soldiers opened fire, but the girl raised the blade and a shield of energy formed around them. Bolts of plasma struck the shield, but none passed through. Instead, the energy bounced back, striking the walls and shattering stone. The vault shook, relics falling from their shelves, but the shield held. The shopkeeper fired his old gun, striking down 2 soldiers. The others hesitated, fear in their movements. They had expected an easy capture, not resistance from a human and an alien child. One soldier muttered, "It is true, humanity is waking." The leader silenced him with a glare, but doubt spread through their ranks. Above the battlefield, townspeople had gathered at the ridge. They had seen the alien ships descend, had heard the explosions underground. Most were afraid, but some carried tools, knives, even stones, one whispered. "We cannot just hide while they take everything," another answered, "but we are only humans." Yet even as they spoke, the ground glowed faintly beneath their feet. The artifact's awakening was spreading. Something deep inside them stirred, an echo of forgotten courage. Back in the chamber, the girl cried out. The shield was cracking under the endless fire. Her body ached, her breath came heavy. "I can't hold it," she screamed. The shopkeeper gritted his teeth. "You can, because you are not alone." He placed his hand on the shield beside hers. For a moment, the light flickered, then grew stronger. The girl gasped as the blade's power surged. The shield expanded, pushing the soldiers back once more. The leader stumbled, his weapon dropping, his red eyes narrowed, filled with rage and fear. "This is impossible," he hissed. "No human has power like this." The shopkeeper's voice was steady. "You were wrong to think humans weak. You buried the truth, but truth does not stay buried forever." The soldiers hesitated, their formation breaking. And then, from above, shouts echoed through the chamber. The townspeople had found the opening. They threw stones, swung tools, and rushed at the soldiers with desperate courage. The aliens were armed with advanced weapons, but the humans did not back away. Their defiance shook the chamber more than any weapon could. The girl stared in awe. These were ordinary humans, farmers, workers, merchants, yet they stood against soldiers trained for war. The blade pulsed in her hands, as if feeding on their courage. Her shield blazed brighter, her body filling with new strength. She raised the blade high, and its light spread across the chamber. The soldiers fell back, blinded. The leader roared, "Retreat! Retreat!" In moments, the red-armored figures vanished into the shadows. The chamber was left in silence, broken only by the ragged breaths of humans. The townspeople looked at the girl with wide eyes, fear and wonder mixing together. One whispered, "She carries their power," another said. "No, it's not only her. Did you not feel it? It was inside us too." The shopkeeper looked around, his chest heavy but his eyes shining. He saw it, the spark of courage in their faces. The truth was spreading. The artifacts had awakened not just for the girl, but for the humans around her. The girl lowered the blade slowly. Her body trembling, she whispered, "It wasn't only me. The shield grew stronger when they stood with us. The shopkeeper nodded. That is humanity's hidden strength. Not the artifacts, not the weapons, but the courage to rise when all seems lost. The chamber glowed softly, as if agreeing. With his words, the artifacts hummed together, resonating with the humans gathered inside. The girl's silver eyes filled with both fear and hope. She realized now why the enemy feared humanity so much. It wasn't just about power. It was about unity. Ordinary humans standing together could create something no empire could destroy. But far above, the alien ship's leader watched from his command deck. His red eyes burned with fury as he slammed his fist against the console. Fools, they think this courage will save them, but courage without control is chaos. We will return with armies. We will burn their courage into ash. The stars outside the window glowed cold and merciless. The war for humanity's future had only just begun. The underground chamber was silent after the battle. Broken weapons lay scattered across the floor, and the faint glow of the artifacts filled the darkness with soft light. The townspeople stood together, breathing heavily, their eyes fixed on the alien girl who still held the blade of light. Her body trembled, but the glow around her had not faded. The shopkeeper watched her carefully, his old eyes filled with pride and sorrow. The girl whispered, "They will come back stronger than before?" Her voice carried both fear and certainty. The shopkeeper nodded. "Yes, and when they return, they will not send scouts or hunters. They will send armies. But this time, we will not face them alone." The townspeople exchanged uncertain glances. They were ordinary humans, farmers, workers, mothers, children. But something had awakened inside them during the fight. A spark, a memory hidden in their blood. They felt it even now, humming under their skin. The girl looked at them with wide silver eyes and whispered, "It was not only me. When you stood against them, the shield grew stronger, the blade shined brighter. You are part of this too." A murmur spread among the humans. One said, "We have no weapons," another replied, "We have no training." But the shopkeeper raised his voice, firm and clear. "You have what no empire can destroy, courage. And when courage joins with truth, no chain can hold it down." The girl lifted the glowing blade, its light spilling across the chamber walls. In her mind, the whispers grew louder. "You are the bridge. Through you, humanity will rise." She felt her fear shrinking, replaced by something stronger. Hope. Outside, the rumble of engines shook the ground. Alien ships darkened the sky, their red lights like fire in the clouds. The enemy had returned, larger and more furious than before. The girl's chest tightened. She looked at the humans around her and whispered, "We cannot stay hidden. If we wait, they will destroy us all." The shopkeeper's eyes hardened. "Then, we do not wait, we stand." The humans followed them out of the vault. The air outside was filled with smoke and wind from the descending ships. Armored soldiers poured from the sky, lines of fire lighting up the hills. The townspeople flinched, some stepping back, but the girl raised the blade high, its light cutting through the darkness, and the fear that gripped their hearts loosened. They felt the spark inside them awaken again. The first wave of soldiers charged. The girl swung the blade, and arcs of light split the ground, forcing the enemy back. Beside her, the shopkeeper fired his old gun with deadly precision. Behind them, the townspeople fought with whatever they had. Stones, sticks, broken tools, but each strike carried weight. Each shout carried strength, because the artifacts fed on their unity. The humans fought not as scattered individuals, but as one. The enemy commander roared above the battlefield. "This is madness. Humans are weak. They cannot stand against us." But even as he spoke, the shield around the girl expanded again. This time it did not only cover her and the shopkeeper. It spread across the field, wrapping the townspeople inside its light. Alien weapons fired, but their energy dissolved on contact. The humans stood tall inside the shield, their courage turning into power. The girl's voice rang out across the chaos. "Humans were never weak, you only wanted them to forget." The commander staggered, rage twisting his face. "No, you are just one alien child with a stolen blade." But the girl shook her head, her silver eyes shining. I am not alone. I am the bridge, and they are the strength. The battlefield erupted as the humans surged forward. The artifacts resonated, with their hearts glowing brighter with every act of defiance. The commander's soldiers faltered, their formation breaking under the unexpected storm of resistance. For every blast they fired, 2 humans rose again. For every strike they made, the shield grew stronger. The commander realized too late. Humanity's power was not in one artifact, not in one fighter, it was in all of them. The girl swung the blade one final time. A wave of white light spread across the battlefield. The enemy soldiers were thrown back, their weapons shattered, their ships cracking under the force. The commander roared in fury, his red eyes blazing. This is not the end, we will return with more. But his ship collapsed under the storm of light, disappearing into the clouds. Silence fell, broken only by the heavy breathing of humans. They looked at one another, bruised, wounded, but standing. The girl lowered the blade, her arms weak. She whispered, "It is over." But the shopkeeper shook his head, his voice steady. "No, child. This was only the first battle. The war has only begun." The townspeople gathered around the girl, their eyes filled with respect and wonder. They did not see her as a stranger anymore. They saw her as the bridge, the one who reminded them of who they truly were. The girl looked at the night sky, still glowing with fire from the battle. Her chest rose and fell as she whispered softly, "Humanity will rise again." Far away, in the darkness of space, other alien empires watched the battle's end. Fear spread among them. They had spent centuries convincing themselves that humans were broken. But now they saw the truth. The spark had returned, and sparks once lit always spread. The girl closed her eyes, the blade fading to silence in her hand. She knew the road ahead would be long and filled with danger, but she also knew she was no longer alone. For the first time in many generations, humans had stood together and won. The forgotten story of their strength had been remembered, and now, nothing in the galaxy could erase it again. The rise of humans had begun,